All right. We are in the pre-show countdown now. Today is a busy edition of this update. We have the likelihood of some very cold air returning to the state Saturday night, and Sunday, probably colder than what you've dealt with so far this year. Yes, even colder potentially than last night and Monday. And then we have a tricky little winter weather setup for parts of the deep south into the first part of the weekend, Friday, Saturday specifically, and then sliding into Georgia a little bit after that. So, a lot to talk to, a lot to get to, and we will dive into all of it here in this edition of whatever we're going to call this fun thing we do. So, welcome in. I'm Josh Johnson. This is a cold day. No way to sugarcoat that. We've got temperatures across the state now just now beginning to get into the 30s and 40s. Is raw and cold. We'll go over some of the numbers momentarily. I can tell you Weather Service in Birmingham is a really good little quick glance site here. It looks like we're in the 37 at Alexander City. Auburn has it 35. Montgomery has made it all the way up to 35. These are the basically an hour ago. These are the noon obs. The 1 o'clock obs will be taken at 12:53. So let's dive straight into the craziness here. First thing I want to show you, this is the European output for this weekend. This is the operational run. Remember, the operational run is like the individual singer. The ensemble is like the choir. We use both. So the operational run of the Euro has a high Saturday of 29 degrees. Now, I'll point out the ensembles are not quite as cold. They have a high of the ensemble mean is a high of 31 on Saturday. That's off the Euro. The GFS ensembles have a high of around 34 Saturday. So you see, confidence is through the roof that it is going to be extremely cold around here for the weekend. Here's the NBM, the National Blend of Models. Saturday's high, 31. Saturday night, 15. Both of those numbers will be colder than what we just dealt with. We got to 38 here in Montgomery on Monday, and the kind of consensus approach to all this data is we will not even get to that. Many of you will stay below freezing all day Saturday, which that is pipe bursting weather for sure, because the problem is you would go below freezing sometime Friday night, potentially stay below freezing all day Saturday, and then drop down to 15 by Sunday morning. So you're potentially looking at 24 hours or more with the temperature below freezing, and that is the pipe burst risk skyrockets when that happens. So we'll talk wintry weather concerns a little later, but the big story here, if you live anywhere in Alabama, is this change to brutally cold air. Look, it's cold tonight. We're in the mid-20s. It's cold Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Highs are only in the upper 40s and low 50s, but true Arctic air makes a return to the state by the weekend, and that is going to be exactly 0% fun. So let's talk about what happens with all of this cold air. So this is the GFS run from this morning, and I'll just kind of arrow through this whole thing. Today is cold and dry. Tonight's cold and dry. Again, Alabama sits right down here. If you're not a map person, that little cross right there is right over essentially Montgomery. So I'll leave it on the screen. The cold tries to moderate a little later on in the week, but it doesn't get very far. So I'll adjust this to where we can see the time and date. It's right up there at the top of the screen. So this is 6 o'clock Thursday morning. It's still cold and dry, but you've got an area of low pressure over Oklahoma and a little shortwave. See the little dash blue lines there, a little shortwave trough coming in from Kansas and Oklahoma, heading towards Alabama. And there's a little moisture with that, and then that will kind of our actual Arctic front will then blast through after that. And there's a little moisture along the Arctic front here. Now, the raw GFS data, if you were to just take this and say, okay, this is absolutely correct, which it will not be. No model is ever absolutely correct, but this would indicate the possibility of some rain for us Friday, and then potentially a few convective snow showers along that shortwave Friday into Friday evening, with the surface low forming south of Pensacola, and then the whole thing moves east. But the surface low doesn't really get super organized until it gets over here off of the southeast coast over the Atlantic. And then you have a pretty crazy amount of, this would be, Saturday would be a brutal day. Temperatures in the 20s, wind chills in the single digits and teens all day, even in the middle of the afternoon, if this were to verify. Remember, this is still past 3 days. You know my deal on this. When it comes to winter weather in the South, anything past 3 days is not a forecast. It's a scenario, an ideal, or a trend, but it's not a forecast. A forecast is who gets what and when. So this would be brutal cold for Saturday. I would imagine there would be some snow flurries and convective snow showers flying in this. The model doesn't explicitly show that, but this level of cutoff low at 500 millibars with a surface low here, my suspicion would be there would be some snow showers and snow flurries around much of the state on Saturday, especially north of Montgomery. This is the type of pattern, too, as rare as it is, where I think you could see some river effect and lake effect snow showers coming in off Lake Gunnersville, maybe even Lake Martin. Some of the bigger waterways in our state, this is the type of cold that could be, which is very rare, but it does happen. With snow filling in across northeast Georgia, eastern Tennessee, up into the Carolinas. Again, all we're doing right now is just I'm showing you what the model shows for this date. Closed core low over Clarksville, Tennessee, surface low bombing off the East Coast. That's a classic recipe for a snowstorm into parts of the Southeast. Verbatim, this would be mainly dry for us, but again, I suspect with that cold core low tracking the way it is and as deep as it is, I think the model here is probably underestimating the likelihood of some of those convective style snow showers and snow flurries. It would not be a widespread heavy snow scenario, but I do think you could get into some snow showers in this sort of setup. And then that surface low ends up bringing heavy snow to parts of the mid-Atlantic. That is the GFS scenario. Then it stays really cold through Monday and Tuesday, and then we start a warm up out towards the middle of next week. Let me show you the Euro. It's a little different with how it handles some of this, but the overall idea is sort of the same thing. So we'll fast forward. I'll put the black hash mark there right back on us in Alabama. So reinforcing shot of cooler air Wednesday, but then bitterly cold air gets going Friday. Notice the cold core upper low, the cutoff low with this actually is farther north. And northeast. Instead of being centered over Clarksville, it's centered more over, call it Bowling Green, Kentucky. That would mean the chance of any snow showers or flurries would be much less, and for Alabama. And this would all be a little slower in terms of the snow filling in back over eastern Georgia into the Carolinas. Now, it would end up still happening, but for us in Alabama, this would be a little less supportive of the idea of snow on Saturday. And then potentially you'd have to watch this little back edge shortwave coming through Sunday into Sunday night. What does that thing do? The European raw data suggests the possibility of some light snow showers into Monday. So again, that's why I don't do snow forecasts past 3 days. There's no consistency. There's no agreement in any of this data, right? What I can tell you is this is a deep enough cold core low to where I think you're going to have a band of snow showers or flurries along the track of that thing. Now, is that Mentone or Montgomery or somewhere in between? No one knows yet, but that's the flavor to this is wherever that upper level cutoff low goes, and you can kind of make it out on this map. See that little circle of dashed blue lines. The Euro has it farther north, which would keep most of us just dry and really cold. So that's the European idea. How's the Canadian handling all of this? It's a model from Canada. It ought to be good at snow, right? I will tell you right out of the gate here, the Canadian often overestimates snow setups around here. So, but I'll show it to you anyway. A little bit more like the GFS in that the upper low is a little farther southwest, and you get some of those convective snow showers and flurries Friday night into Saturday across parts of Alabama and Georgia. Surface low bombs off the southeast coast. This is a big hit for western North Carolina. And then a really close call for the I-95 corridor up the East Coast. 958 surface low. That's a tropical storm, or even that would be like a hurricane with snow if that were to verify. And by the way, most of the models show some variation of this. The million-dollar question is, does it affect anyone, or is it just something crazy that's happening over the Atlantic Ocean? Every model we look at is brutally cold for Alabama, and I think you would need to watch Saturday and Sunday, depending on which model you believe, for some of those snow flurries, convective snow showers. I don't think this is a snowstorm for us here in Alabama, but I think it's worth mentioning that there could be some surprise snow flurries and showers. I think those will tend to favor Mentone, Fort Payne, Mount Cheaha versus the rest of us, but we can't write any of that in even ink yet. We will lightly trace it in pencil at this point. We're getting close to being in range for some of the convection allowing models, which in theory would handle convective snow showers a little better. So this is the RRFS. Again, I'll put the cross right over Montgomery. And this would just mainly be cold and dry. But I would caution you, we're only out to Friday evening. We don't really get into Saturday to see exactly where this thing goes. Let me broaden the perspective back out a little. What I want to really look at is it's got that cutoff upper low a little farther north, right? This would be kind of more in line with the European look, which would just be really cold and really dry for most of us. Maybe a shower along the Arctic front in southeast Alabama Friday evening, but that would be about the extent of it, and everything's pretty well suppressed. Now, a couple of caveats to all of this. There's been the last storm trended northwest several hundred miles once we got inside of 3 days, which we're still not at. This is just Tuesday. Could you have a trend like that? It's not impossible. If I knew, I would tell you. I don't know. It's possible, though, yeah. It could also trend farther suppressed, and it's just cold and dry in Alabama. Then the track of the upper level low and where that vorticity maximum ends up, that would need to be watched as well. Now, that the timing and intensity on that, look, this is a kind of a detachment of the polar vortex, and my suspicion is there's not good model agreement now. I think the model should probably be even less sure of this than they are, because these TPVs, these polar vortex kind of breakoffs like this, are notoriously poorly modeled. So, bottom line, if I were you, I will give you a forecast for cold. I am confident enough to forecast extremely cold weather Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday. Pipe bursting cold. Temperatures, highs could stay in the low to mid 30s. Lows could drop well into the teens. Wind chills will be brutal Friday night, Saturday especially. That's a forecast. That is who gets what and when. So that's the forecast. On the snow side of it, I'm not yet comfortable giving you a forecast. What I've got to do right now is just talk scenarios and ideas and trends with you that watch these videos. And on that front, I think I would just sort of feel comfortable sticking with the idea of there are some scenarios out there that would suggest some snow flurries in parts of the state. But the idea would tend to favor probably the higher elevations of east and northeast Alabama, with a higher chance of some snow into eastern Georgia and up through the Carolinas. But again, none of this is a forecast. Remember, a forecast is who gets what and when. These are scenarios, these are ideas, these are trends. Do not make any weather-related decisions based on a scenario, an idea, or a trend. Wait until we give you the forecast, right? Once we get inside of 72 hours, we'll be a lot better at this. The data will get better. But if you see some crazy map for some snowstorm 5 days from now, do not make any plans based on that. This is a confusing time to be you, because there's so much crap out there that people are posting to make money and get attention and get clicks and all that sort of stuff. I don't do it, but look, a lot of people do, and that's fine. I don't worry about what other people say or do. I worry about you and what you hear and what you see. And the overwhelming thing I heard in this last winter weather event is how confusing this was. This is confusing for everybody. So my advice to you would be, understand that when it comes to snow or ice anywhere in Alabama, anything you see that's more than 3 days from right now is a scenario, an idea, or a trend. It is not a forecast. Don't treat it like one. Don't give it confidence. Don't make plans based on it. Don't share it on the internet. Just sort of say, okay, well, that's an idea. You ever walk through Walmart and ask people what their idea is on something? You're going to get some weird ones, right? I mean, the guy in the garden center who's been standing there 45 minutes, that's wearing his pajamas, he's going to give you a weird idea. 100% chance. So why would you do that on the internet with snow forecast? anything past 3 days with a snow forecast in Alabama, you are walking through Walmart asking people for their ideas. That's what you're doing. You're going to hear some good ones. You're going to hear some smart ones. You're going to hear some brilliant ones. You're going to hear some crazy stuff too. You're going to hear some wild ones, some weird ones. Do not go buy generators because of that. That's my advice. So there you have it. That's the story, and I'm sticking to it. As always, I appreciate you watching these briefings. If you've left a comment with a question, I will answer that via text. I'll just leave a comment. I'll respond back. I'll spend the next 30 minutes or so answering the comments on the Facebook and YouTube live version of this. You can watch my forecast tonight, WSFA 12 News at 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. I hope to see you there. If you want to stream those newscasts, you can. Wherever you stream, just search WSFA, download the WSFA app. We've got them on smart TVs. If you're on Amazon Fire, Apple TV, Roku. If you are iOS or Android, wherever you go to get apps, just search WSFA. There's always a watch live button. And I'll be posting content and maps to Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram throughout the day. Be sure to check those out. I'm on Facebook, YouTube. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok as Josh Johnson Weather. So if you're on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok, just search Josh Johnson Weather. I'm on Facebook as Josh Johnson WSFA, and then my X account is just Josh Weather. So everyone have a wonderful day. Try to stay warm. Understand that it is going to get bitterly cold this weekend. We'll watch for any wintry weather, but at this point, in my view, the bigger issue for you is how cold it gets Saturday,